Good morning and welcome back to my channel. Today I'd like to do a little segment about 5 questions and answers about what is it like to be a psychotherapist. Number 1, what is the toughest part of being a psychotherapist? For me, and probably for a lot of therapists, it's the documentation. It's one thing to sit there and do the session face to face with a client, but it's another to sort of relive the session and have to do the critical thinking skills, the emotional labor that it takes to also draft up an appropriate progress note, for example, let's say. So if I had a magic wand, I would love to eliminate, doing documentation. That is very draining. Number 2, how can I sit session after session, day after day, just listening to people's problems? Easy. For me, the positives outweigh the negatives in that it's an honor, really, and a joy to see growth in a client, or they report healthier relationships, or they're experiencing less triggers, or they're able to have better emotion regulation to deal with all the stressors that will continually come our way. So for me, the positives of that definitely outweigh the negative. Number 3, what is the number one intervention, that clients really need from therapy? What is the number one intervention? Empathy. That is what humans really need, number one, first and foremost. Over the years in my life, I've had my own therapists that I've gone to see, and I've had some that are just kind of detached or cold. I had one even fall asleep on me. They sort of just, I remember they asked me a question and they just literally dozed off about 20 seconds. It was so obvious. And then they perked back up. I never went back to that therapist again. What kind of a message does that send their clients, right? So empathy. We need more kindness and just understanding of other people's pains. That really goes a long, long way. Number 4, how do I get a consistent caseload? Hopefully I'll never have a problem with this. So far, I have not. And what works for me is marketing. I go on Psychology Today. And so if you're looking for a therapist, go to the Psychology Today website, do a filter search. You list your insurance, your location, the type of therapy that you're looking for. And ultimately, what works for me is doing good work. What happens is clients spread it, and it's word of mouth. And or working with other providers or on cases, consultation. Once they get a feel that you're a good practitioner, they start to refer clients to you. So far that has worked wonders for me. And last but not least, do I ever dread meeting with clients or particular clients? I mean, I'm human, so it's happened. But when that does happen, I either seek consultation or supervision just to run it by somebody else to see, are any blind spots that I'm experiencing? Is there transference? Transference is when a client comes in and they're sort of reenacting attachment wounding. Usually goes back to parents, their caregivers when they were growing up. And as I'm working with a client for a couple years, the dynamics start to play. And or sometimes it's countertransference. Maybe there's somebody from my past as a therapist where the client's triggering some feelings in me, and I don't ever want it to show as irritability or anything that could interfere with the therapeutic process. So every once in a while, I do have a client where, you're just like, oh, but it's usually because, like I said, transference or countertransference, or maybe I'm just not the right fit. It's okay if out of all my skill sets, there's a client that's presenting and there's an issue that's out of my scope of practice, meaning I don't have the interventions of skills to help them with what they're specifically needing. So what will I do with that? If I can't iron it out with the client, I will refer them to the appropriate person or continue working with them, but find somebody else for a particular issue that they may be having. So, whatever the case may be, whatever the issue is there, it is never the client's fault. They are allowed to bring in all of them, all parts of them, all the woundedness and pain that they have. It is not the client's fault. It is my job as the therapist to provide the best care. I hope this was helpful. I might do a part 2 depending on how this was received. If there's any questions that you may have as a listener, drop it in the comments and we'll see if I'll do a part 2. Thank you. Have a great day.